my first startup, it was IVVT. We were three founders who were all successful executives but had zero experience in startups. In fact, for most part, all three of us had worked only with one company. Incidentally, two of us were in the same company, and the third person was a different company from another company. So, two of us who were from the same company. Usually, investors like if they find a team which has experience of working together, right? Because it means they know whom are they dealing with. That's something I heard from them during the course of our fundraising cycle. But one thing they didn't know was that even though me and the other founder, technical founder, had prior experience of working together, but in previous life, I used to report to him. He was VP of engineering, and I was engineer when I started my career in that company. Then he was actually director of engineering. Then he kind of eventually became VP of engineering, but my trajectory was different. I became engineering manager, then product marketing manager, and then director of sales, and then VP of sales and marketing. So when we both left that company, we were in a way peers. I was VP of sales and marketing, he was VP of engineering. But still, that thing of he was older than me, and he was also from the same origin as I was, in a way, Indian from India. So there was a thing of, okay, he's my junior type, feeling. So, but we had experience of working together. I had a lot of respect for his technical abilities. He had a lot of respect for my business acumen. So that was a good part. And the third wheel that we had from a different company, he was not as experienced, but typically founders, when they all get together, start a company, it is a good feeling of working together, and in that emotion of good feeling, they tend to give equal roles, equal equity to everybody. And that is a problem. And this is a common mistake all entrepreneurs or founders made. I have heard that multiple times, and it's very difficult to fix that later at the later stage, especially the equity founders equity part. So advice to all founders is, do not get carried away by the initial emotion of camaraderie, initial emotion of, hey, we are getting together doing something. It has to be, the process of startup formation or running a startup, regardless of how noble of a purpose you may have in solving the problem that you're solving, it is always a bit of capitalistic motive. You're doing this to solve a problem so that there is some financial transaction at some point in time where various involved people can have some financial reward. So there is a capitalistic, should I say, motive behind all this, a capitalistic system that is governing all this. So it cannot be that system. It's not communism. I'm sorry to use these terms, but I think people, hopefully, that will help people understand this. You can't just say everybody's equal, everybody join, everybody thinks that. No, it's not. It has to be based on the values a person brings. A person brings in money, person brings in customers, person brings in product knowledge, he has the original idea. I have seen some of the most successful startups are the ones where one person usually is in some way higher than the others, because either his idea is the core idea around which the company has been formed. So a company couldn't have existed unless he had that core idea, or he had the ability to translate that core idea into a product to be taken to market. Or someone who, let's say, brought in the initial financing and also initial relationships with the customers or VCs or something. And then, that person ends up becoming the CEO, or ends up becoming the main guy who owns higher equity than others. So depending upon the role, you do need a business head, CEO, COO, some person like that. So the person who has the knowledge of business, who has the knowledge of customers, knowledge of the market, knowledge of fundraising process, he ends up being, that in that role. And there's a person who, in case of technology startups, there's a person who understands the technology core ingredients of what is going to, take that core idea into a product. So he will take a CTO type role. And then, actually, I would suggest to all the founders out there, you don't need anybody else at that point in time. So in our case, mistake was we had the third leg, and we were not able to figure out where to place him, and also the fact that he was not as experienced as we. So since we were first timers, emotional folks, and we ended up giving him a chief strategy officer role. I took the chief operating officer, the technical guy was chief technical officer, and the third was chief strategy officer. And we did an equal distribution of equity. Now, as we went through the fundraising cycle, by the time we were able to raise funding, everybody was questioning, what is this guy up to? What, this guy has no role in this company, or not as much as you guys doing. I mean, they clearly could see the role the value I'm bringing, the value the other technical guy was bringing, but they couldn't really see the same value from the other person. Now, he was a marketing guy and obviously by no means a strategy guy. But I mean, at that early stage of a company, you actually could have a junior marketing guy to just for us to understand or prepare some presentation decks and have some kind of a basic marketing communication material at that stage. I mean, we didn't need a full-fledged marketing. It is a highly technical product. Doing a chip company's marketing is completely different. So we did go through that, and we tried to fix that after fundraising, by kind of transferring some of the equity that was given to him at the founding stage back to us. But it's very, very hard. There are a lot of tax implications. And in reality, it was, even though we did some paperwork, but it was never executed properly, and it never resulted in any change in the equity distribution. And that it caused issues. I mean, he was unhappy because we made him at least feel that he had less value. Spending 6 months with him where he felt all along that he had equal value as us in role and everything, and then all of a sudden you raise money and investors also question it, and you realize that he doesn't, either we were fools earlier or we fools now. I mean, one of the two, right? So all the founders out there, don't get carried away by emotions. Always look at this thing very, very objectively. There are no two equal people on this earth, and they shall not be in any startup. So I think you should look at this, give a hard look at this value, role, what roles you need at that time, at that early stage of a company, and what value someone is bringing, So based on that, you should do equity distribution, role distribution. Usually, as I said, a business and a technical person. Now, if it is a services or some kind of process company, then obviously a subject matter expert in that field, right? That you have this other founder. So business, fundraising, operations is one, and the subject matter expert is another. And those two are good enough actually. Some companies have 4, 5, 6, 7 founders. Sometimes I feel it's good, but they all, as long as they all understand their role and all understand the value they bring in. So I think based on that, they can be given roles, equity. Then I think it's all cool and dandy.